Aloha, everyone! Today is July 4th, so happy Independence Day as I record this, unless you're watching this on another day, in which case, happy random day. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about today is 80s nostalgia in the movies, which seems to be huge right now. And that's fine, because the 80s are awesome. If you, like me, are a child of the 80s, you know that because you lived it. If you haven't lived it, watch these movies because the 80s are awesome. Even if the movies aren't that good, what they are referencing from the 80s is awesome. Go back and watch the source material. But anyway, you may have seen in many movies these days, perhaps like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, where there is a lot of references to 80s stuff. Pac-Man, David Hasselhoff, stuff like that. Well, that's because it's all really awesome. And Hollywood is capitalizing on that right now, and we're seeing a lot of movies based on 80s properties. Transformers is huge now, even though the movies aren't always well received, but they are making money. They are making money. And, of course, they do tap into that nostalgic feeling we 80s kids have, and maybe we want to share with our kids if you have kids. So that's, like, huge right now, and that's part of the fuel to the fire. And I hear that they're planning on expanding that and drawing in more 80s properties. They are planning a crossover with G.I. Joe, from what I hear. Between the Transformers and G.I. Joe. I know they did try a G.I. Joe. They got I think 2 movies out there, not as well received as the Transformers movies, even though the Transformers movies aren't always that well received, but didn't make as much money, we'll say that. But there's that, and there's one of my favorites. All the Transformers in the 80s was always my huge big favorite. Kind of the first thing I was ever really a big fan of was Transformers. But probably like second to Transformers when I was a kid, what I was most into, other than that, is probably Masters of the Universe. He-Man and Skeletor, those things. And I do hear that there is a Masters of the Universe movie in the works. Rebooting it. I'm not sure how far along that is in the process, but yeah, I hear they are going forward with it. I'm just not sure when they're going to be releasing it. But they do that right. That could be like the next big thing. That could be awesome. If you don't know the franchise is, it's kind of this, magic and swords and sorcery kind of stuff that takes place on an alien planet that also has advanced technology. So you've kind of got this Conan meets Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars thing going on. And if you get those right, that could be really awesome. There has been a movie version of that made in the 80s at the time when it was new, which is cheesy. It's not the best. It's fun for a good nostalgic watch, watch Frank Langella as Skeletor if you ever go back and watch the 80s Master of the Universe live-action movie, because he really just decides to go all out. Just totally has fun with the role. If there's one reason to watch that movie, it's that. Then let's see, there's other things have been rebooted from the 80s these days. We saw, a few years back we saw an A-Team movie, which kind of got overshadowed by the fact that within a month or two of its release, The Expendables was released, which was kind of a similar concept and was much more popular. But that too was 80s nostalgia, because it decided to take like every action hero from the 80s it could and throw them into the same movie together. And then there's been other action movies from the 80s getting remade, and not always with a lot of success, but they're always drawing from that well. That Total Recall and RoboCop and things like that. There's been continuations of series that started in the 80s, Die Hard, Terminator, with sequels that, you know, they keep making them. Fans don't always like them, but they keep making them because 80s nostalgia is just that strong. The awesomeness cannot be, the awesomeness of the 80s cannot be contained. Then there's even like something like the Smurfs. We've had Smurfs movies in the past few years. We had one this year. They went back to animated movies for the Smurfs, and I think that was a good idea. That's kind of where they belong, I think. But I haven't seen that movie. I am planning to when I get a chance. There's been references. There's been some TV series that haven't been touched yet. I might like to see the big screen treatment on. Maybe something like Knight Rider. I think Knight Rider has had TV reboots on the small screen a couple of times. They never really took off. But I don't think it's ever gotten the big screen treatment. I think if they do that right, they get someone good for the voice of Kit. I don't know if they can maybe get the original voice of Kit back. They can, that'd be awesome. Or at least somebody that can bring that kind of sensibility to the role. Get them with a charismatic lead actor, and just stay true to the spirit of it. If you do it right, it could be great. Again, if you do it right. Because if you do it wrong, then you end up with something like Dukes of Hazzard. If you've ever seen that movie. Again, 80s nostalgia, but done really, really wrong. It did not understand the spirit of the original show at all. Then there are movies that we're not going to see retouched. They're not going to see... So many movies, they're just going to stay 80s movies, and we're not going to see them touched. Things like Back to the Future. From what I hear, those that own the movie rights to Back to the Future are adamantly against any kind of remake, reboot, sequel, anything for Back to the Future. So, Back to the Future is probably just going to stay the Back to the Future trilogy, and I think that's fine. They're great movies as it is. We really don't need to go back to those, and if you did, you really wouldn't have Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, and would it be the same? Yeah, probably not. I don't think you could really do those any better. E.T. I haven't heard anybody talk about wanting to do a remake or a sequel or anything like that. There's been, there was opportunity in the 80s to plan a sequel, and they never did, because it's kind of a finished story all by itself. And for a remake, I just don't see anyone doing it better. It just seems fine the way it is, so I think that one's not going to get touched. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? One of my favorites. There have been plans for a long time to do a sequel or a prequel or whatever like that, but the rights things are a problem because, Steven Spielberg had owned part of the rights and Disney owned part of the rights, and they just never could see eye to eye again. See, that's one of those things where you had lightning in a bottle. This is something that's never going to happen again. Because you got all these animation studios and to cooperate together, put their characters in the same movie for cameos, Bugs and on the same screen as Mickey Mouse. That's never going to happen again. That was exclusively in the 80s. That's something that's never going to happen again. Anyway. What 80s properties have you been looking for? What 80s properties have you really enjoyed? Which ones have you not enjoyed? Like, comment, subscribe, and that's a wrap.